Call this meeting to order. Would you please join me for the flag salute? I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. Can we get a roll call?
Councilmember Conley?
Present.
Councilmember King?
Present.
Mayor Pro Tem Trent?
Here.
Mayor Johnson?
Here. Thank you. Overdriving that speaker there. And at this time, we have our first item, a presentation and discussion of the Measure E Annual Report.
Good evening. My name is Sue Long. I'm the current chairperson of the Measure E Oversight Committee. Aaron, as usual, wrote a very detailed, excellent report that is in your packet, so I'm not going to read it to you, but unless you want me to, I could read it to you. That would be a waste of time. So I'm just going to hit some of the highlights for the people who are in the audience and maybe are watching it on television. So as we know, Measure E is a three-quarter% sales tax transaction tax that was voted in November of 2016. It was revised in 2020, and it now expires on March 31st, 2033. So Measure E is a general tax, and the intent and what was put on the ballot measure was to protect and maintain essential city services, including increasing and restoring police officers and programs, repairing aging/deteriorating streets and potholes, parks maintenance, and programs for youth and seniors. And part of that measure ballot also was that there would be an oversight committee so that the voters could be assured that their money would go for the intended purposes. And I'm super proud of the city, the previous councils, this council, the Measure E Oversight Committee, because Fortuna has stayed true to the intent of that measure. And, sometimes that doesn't happen. Sometimes we go a little off, or a city will go, well, we'll just include this. And I'm just super proud of the city because we have stayed true to what we told the voters we were going to do. So the current board is myself, Dawn Ingram, Debbie August, who has decided to resign, and Martin Morris. Martin was chosen as the vice chair at our last meeting, and further on in your meeting, you're going to appoint some new people that I'm really excited about and ready to serve with them. So during the last fiscal year, 23-24, which is runs from June to July, the city received $1,938,466, which was 19% of the city's general fund. So that brought in almost another $2 million that the city would not have had if we did not have the Measure E funds. The police department accounted for 71% of the expenditures. Public Works was 8%, Parks and Recs 12%, and the remaining 9% went to admin, City Hall, general fund deficit to balance the budget. Some of the Public Works expenditures that were done were we did the 12th Street stormwater enhancement. If anyone knows 12th Street, how it used to flood and you couldn't get from the parked car to the sidewalk without waiters, that has been redesigned, and now it drains much better than it did. And you can see the cute little pop-outs with landscaping and all the things. They're also working on a stormwater infrastructure hazard identification project, which basically they're working on a study to figure out where our storm drain deficits are, basically, because we don't have any storm drain funds. So anything that we try to do to fix drainage in our city has been coming from Measure E. We budgeted $125,000 towards street maintenance, and that was for paving and striping. They did some on 12th Street, 10th and H, Ronerville Road near Newell Drive in the intersection of Newburgh and Ronerville Road. So that was where some of your Measure E funds went. Some storm drain maintenance projects. Didn't really do a big project. They just took care of the little issues that came up from the flooding in the winter of 2023-24. We're trying to buy a boom mower. Measure E allocated $37,500 towards that, but we did not get the funding from the USDA, so we're still trying to figure out how to get that boom mower into the city. Illegal camp cleanup was $2,100 $2,113. Everybody has seen the issues caused by transients and camps along our creek banks and all the things, and so needed some help cleaning up those things. And then there's some funding set aside for the RCRPD Benefit Assessment Project, which is the group that's trying to work on the swimming pool. And that funding has not been spent yet, and we're thinking probably this next fiscal year. Measure E funds several positions, which is Parks and Rec Director, the Recreation Program Supervisor. They replace roller skate wheel cleaning machine. They provide transit to Eureka for older people, well, I guess older people for medical appointments. And the thing that's most visible in our community is the basketball courts in Roner Park that were enhanced, and they're just super nice, and they're always in use. $900,000 was budgeted. We acquired that Newburgh Park area that used to belong to the McLean Foundation, trying to figure out what to do with it now. Needs drainage. We'd like to see some soccer fields and some different things there. So it's in the drawing the plans to fix the drainage and figure out parking and all of those kinds of things to add to our parks program. And then there was $40,000 for the Fortuna Senior Center. They provided some services for seniors in our city. And then back to positions, the community service officer, the records clerk, the patrol officer, overhire for the senior school resource office when Measure Z did not pay for that, and then a code compliance officer, which has helped clean up a lot of blight in our city. And then the K-9 program, which we all know and love. We have K-9 Cane and Blitz, and they're very popular throughout the city. And then some of the funds were used for the police facility. So that, in a nutshell, is what has happened with Measure E, and I'm excited to work with the new people who are going to come on board. So if you have any questions, I can try to answer them, but everything's pretty much in your staff report.
Any questions?
All right,
Thank
thanks,
you.
guys.
Thank you for being the ones that show accountability and transparency for the community to make sure that our funds are being spent that way. And Dawn, you too.
You're welcome, and I will say that the Measure E committee is not shy. We ask good questions. We don't just agree with everything staff brings us, and we do make sure that everything's accounted for.
Thank you. Okay. Well, moving on, we come now to oral comments from the public. If you'd like to comment on anything that is not on the agenda this evening, a general public comment, this is the time to do that.
So I've been contacted by a few people in the last week or so because there was an incident on 12th Street. There was a wreck. And so several of the teachers and some of the administration have reached out and want speed bumps installed on 12th Street. I let them know that I was not on the city council any longer, but that I would let you guys know, I would pass it on to you, and I encourage them to email each one of you and the city manager.
I think someone's taking note of that. Thank you for that, too. But I don't see any public comment, so at this time, we'll close public comment and move on to the consent calendar. And we have items A through J, I believe, A through H, including the minutes from the last meeting, reported disbursements, approval of a professional services contract for Well 5 replacement project, approval of a professional services contract for downtown water line replacement and Roner Creek sewer capacity project, review of mayor's recommendations and appointees for the Measure E Oversight Committee, adopt the special event handbook and authorize the risk manager to amend as required, and that will be it. Do we have any items that you'd like to pull?
I just want to make a statement on E. I was very pleased to see the applicants that we got for Measure E and for F-bid. So I would like to thank Tina Taylor, Chris Kitna, Danette DeMello on Measure E for stepping up and doing that. They're very good choices for that committee. And then Marilyn Strell and Lorraine Gossett for F-bid. So thank you very much for doing this for the city. That's it. I'll make a motion to approve the consent calendar.
I'll second.
So we have a motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? None. Consent calendar is passed, and we will move to city council business. And first item of business is a city council vacancy.
Good evening, City Council. Before your City Council today is the opportunity to discuss a vacancy that occurred on January 28th when Chris Mobley submitted her resignation. Her term would have expired at the end of November 2026. You have several options per Government Code Section 36512 to replace Ms. Mobley. Important to note that this replacement should occur within 60 days of the vacancy. So one option is to make an appointment, an immediate appointment. That's one option. It's also not the recommended option. The second option is to make an appointment by March 28th, 2025. You would announce the vacancy, and then you would solicit applications. You would have a filing deadline, and then a public meeting to conduct interviews and make a selection for that vacancy. And then you would also develop a schedule to meet the March 28th deadline. Your third option is also to call a special election by March 28th. This is the only item that goes outside of the 60 days. You just have to call the special election by March 28th. But it does require your council to provide the funding for this special election, which actually, when I spoke with Juan Cervantes, the clerk recorder, registrar of voters, he mentioned 15 to 20,000 when we spoke last week. It's more like 30 to 45,000. So staff recommends that you select option 1B as noted in the staff report, and we have prepared a schedule for you that we would announce the vacancy and solicit applications beginning tomorrow, February 4th. The filing deadline would be March 4th, 2025, and then a special public meeting to conduct interviews, and the selection would occur on March 10th. And that concludes the staff report, and I'd be happy to answer any questions.
Does anybody have a question?
No.
Well, I know that we don't want to spend $45,000. And I think that the filing application and giving 4 weeks time to applicants and then come back with a open meeting on the 10th, that allows public input and allows us to openly conduct interviews. I think that's as transparent as we could possibly get. And I think I'm with you in that idea, and I don't know about the rest of you, but that's my opinion. So, no other comment or?
The only comment I'll make is it's going to be for about a 2-year term, so I highly encourage anyone that if we decide to adopt 1B, that you put if you're a registered voter, I believe it is in the city of Fortuna, you're qualified, you should step forward and serve your community to the best of your ability. We could use the help. So everyone think about it, either in the room or watching on TV.
I agree with you, Mike. I think it's the best option. It is probably the fairest option. An appointee would, I think the immediate appointee can lead to favoritism, but the open forum of a appointee with the application process kind of leaves that more of a fair and equitable choice to do. So I think 1B is the correct choice.
Well,
Mike?
let me get any public comment. Don't see any. So we can close public comment. We can,
I'll make a motion to appoint to the Fortuna City Council by March 28, 2025 through the following schedule: announce vacancy and solicit applications beginning February 4, 2025. filing deadline for application or filing deadline for applications March 4th, 2025, and notice to hold a special public meeting to conduct interviews and selection on March 10th, 2025.
Second.
Councilmember Conley,
Aye.
Councilmember King,
Yes.
Mayor Pro Tem Trent,
Yes.
Mayor Johnson.
Yes. We have a task to do now. Thank you. So we'll move on to our second item, which is the second reading and adoption of the Organic Waste Disposal Ordinance 2024-770.
Good evening, Honorable Mayor and council members. Matt Nyberg, Deputy City Engineer. As you guys know, in 2024, the County of Humboldt, City of Fortuna, and other municipalities got in contract with Abound Food Care to begin developing a commercial food recovery program, edible food, of course. As part of that program, qualifying commercial edible food generators will have to get in contract with some edible food recovery organization. Also with that, they need to be inspected annually by the county. So also last year, the City of Fortuna adopted the Organic Reduction Recycling Ordinance 2024-770 as Chapter 14 of Title 8, the Health and Safety title. In that, Section 70 defines the requirements for commercial edible food generators, and those do not include the requirements for inspections. So that's what this amendment is by and large about. And in talking with the county, they asked that we require the generators to register with Department of Environmental Health, pay a fee of about $80, and submit to an annual inspection. There was one other small edit in there that eliminated some ambiguity earlier in that same subsection, and that's on the staff report. When I gave the first reading, a question was asked about what the inspection was like, and I gave the best answer I could, but I have spoken with Environmental Health, and they gave me a synopsis of what they would be doing. They will be verifying contracts with the recovery agency and that they're posted in the establishment, that records are properly kept for end-of-year reporting, which the city has to do, calorie cycle. Staff training for criterion for edible food diversion and safe food handling practices. They will also be checking on the segregation of recovered edible food, proper holding temperatures, proper storage, and protection from vermins and contamination. So staff recommends the second reading by title only and approval of these amendments to Ordinance 2024-770.
Thank you. I know one of the things that came up last year was that there was a dearth of places that would take or to use the food, which is edible, which is, but has that changed at all?
In terms of consumers?
Yeah,
or-
well, consumers or an organization that would collect the food, edible food recovery, and then disperse it to the community or to an organization?
Well, the first step is identifying these things, and that's part of what the program development did, was identify the generators, determine whether they're generating enough to where they need to get in contract, identifying the collection agencies around the county. We do have room for growth in that. And to be honest, I can't speak to the consumer aspect. If the the agencies, the recovery agencies are not able to get rid of all the food, that's kind of creates a whole different situation. But as I look around, I would like to think that we could promote that because there's plenty of people that could take advantage.
All right. Thank you. So we'll open the public hearing, and is there any questions or comments from staff, from council?
No.
And any public comment? Well,
Thank you.
and we will close that's going the other way. We'll close public comment and look for a
Motion
motion.
to conduct second reading of and adopt ordinance 2024-770 and read by title only.
Second.
Okay, we have motion and a second.
Ordinance 2024-770, an ordinance of the City Council of the City of Fortuna, California, amending Title 8, Health and Safety of the Fortuna Municipal Code by revising Chapter 8.14, Organic Reduction and Recycling Ordinance. Councilmember Conley?
Aye.
Councilmember King? Mayor Pro Tem Trent?
Yes.
Mayor Johnson?
Yes. All right. Thank you. And we'll move on down to adopt amended City of Fortuna Council policies, procedures, and governance manual.
Good evening, Mayor and members of the Fortuna City Council. On October 21st, 2024, your council created an ad hoc committee to amend the Fortuna City Council Policies and Procedures Manual. And over a number of meetings, myself and former Councilmember Mobley and Mayor Johnson met to discuss the Policies and Procedures Manual. We also reviewed other city policies and procedures manuals from Folsom, Santa Rosa, Grass Valley, Eureka, and Arcata. And so some of the proposed changes that are before your council tonight are in Section 1, Local Government in Fortuna. We moved some of those sections to Section 3 under Roles and Responsibilities, and we modernized the language. Under Section 2, Effective Governments, we describe the characteristics of an effective council and effective council members. We updated Section 3 to Roles and Responsibilities, and we described the roles of mayor, mayor pro tem, and the city council. We talked about the non-interference with city manager's administrative role, responding to public complaints, new council member orientation, and then we also added communication protocols. We also added Section 3.5, attendance, which just mirrors California Government Code Section 36513, which talks about that city council member is absent without permission from all regular city council meetings for 60 days consecutively from the last regular meeting he or she attended. Then their office becomes vacant. And we also talked about a quorum, and we added that language as well. And then we talked again about communication protocols. We clarified language on conflict of interest. We also added language on city council meeting steps, and we added clarifying language in Section 7.7.2 under ordinances. And then we also updated and deleted some language to the commitment to open and transparent government because by law we are required to do that, and we must do that. So depending on the council's actions tonight, we recommend that you adopt this amended policies, procedures, and governance manual, as well as dissolve the ad hoc committee because this would conclude their role and they can be dissolved at this point. And I'd be happy to answer any questions you may have.
Any questions or comments?
Yeah, I have one. The reference to California Code Section 36513, the 60 days. I guess question and I guess comment towards that direction. I would suggest 4 consecutive meetings just because 60 days might not fall on that first meeting. I don't know if that's against California code. But like if we had a special meeting or a holiday that would push that 60 days, that 4 consecutive, that's what I'm kind of thinking you're getting at is you get kind of 2 months to be that 60-day mark. Whereas, like I said, if we pushed a meeting back or something like that, then it would, even though the person may be able to attend said meeting at 60 day, if there is no meeting to have, then they can't attend.
Sure, Councilmember Conley, I think I understand what you're saying. So first of all, special meetings don't count. It's regular meetings.
I'm sorry, like a holiday meeting where
Yeah,
we push
yeah.
it back. It's not a special meeting,
yeah,
but it's not on a
and-
Monday, it's on a Tuesday. It might push it back past that 60-day
Sure,
mark.
sure. That wouldn't apply because the whole council would have been impacted at that point, and in theory, there would be permission if there was that kind of meeting change. So this is really just for, we can't amend the government code. We can require stricter standards, but that takes a ballot measure, and that's a voting process. So I did already ask that question because there was some inquiry from the public about creating stricter attendance standards, and so that requires a ballot process. So we can't amend California government code. But the 60 days, if it fell around a holiday and we had a Tuesday meeting instead of a Monday meeting, I don't believe that would impact, because that would have impacted the entire council.
Any other questions? Any public comment?
I was the one that emailed about the attendance. To be honest, the last 2 years, I have been super disappointed in the attendance of the city council, the priorities, the canceled meetings for lack of quorum or because there was something else going on. In my opinion, when you run for city council, you are making a commitment to 12,000 people in the city of Fortuna. Your commitment is to show up at council meetings. It doesn't matter what else is going on in your life. You signed up, you agreed, you committed to 12,000 people in the city of Fortuna to do your job, to be at the meetings, and to do the best you can to serve the community. I am appalled that this has happened in the last 2 years. We never had trouble before that. People committed, they showed up, it wasn't an issue. And I'm just super disappointed that we can't make those attendance requirements more stringent. And if it continues, I would be one to push for a ballot measure, because you make a commitment, you need to serve, and you need to keep your commitment. The other thing that I emailed the city manager was that under the mayor duties, they don't have appointing members to boards and commissions, and I think that should be added. Thank you.
Okay, any other public comment? And we will be looking at those. Seeing none. Can we get a motion? We'll close public comment.
Is it a motion that we need, or just,
A recommended action adopt, so a motion to adopt the
Yes.
amended city council policies and procedures.
I'll make a motion to adopt the amended City of Fortuna City Council Policies, Procedures, and Governance Manual and dissolve the Policies and Procedures Manual Review Ad Hoc Committee.
I'll second.
Voice vote. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Adopted. And now we come to adopt the City of Fortuna draft field use policy and local nonprofit youth-based league rental fees. And I believe our staff report is from the city manager again.
Oh, it's back there.
There we go. Okay. The city manager needed a little technical assistance. My apologies. Good evening. It's not afternoon. All right. So Ms. Stevens, the Director of Parks and Recreation, is unavailable this evening. So you will have me delivering all of the Parks and Rec staff reports. And so I'd like to just move through this presentation on the Parks and Recreation field use and fee schedule. So a timeline is, this conversation began during the fiscal year 2024-25 budget development. The city council directed the Parks and Recreation Director to work on MOUs with field user groups as well as charge appropriate fees to users. And in addition, the city council adopted a budget that included fees from field user groups. The Parks and Recreation Director over the course of the last year has met individually with user groups. As this process continued on, it turned out MOUs are not the most effective or frequently used tool when working on field use. What is more common in cities is a field use policy and a field use rental agreement. So the Parks and Recreation Commission meetings occurred, and these items were discussed during the December 9th, 2024, and the January 6th, 2025 Parks and Recreation meetings. So just some fun field facts. Fields, soccer fields, baseball fields, they all require significantly high levels of maintenance, whether it's red rock to base replacement, drainage, mowing, and then repairs. There's repairs to fences and facilities, restrooms, and then we've even had to repair fields that folks have decided to drive on, which isn't helpful. This requires a significant amount of staff time to maintain and repair the fields, and then frequently staff also have to clean up after large user groups use these fields. And so just to give you a little bit of understanding about the operating budget for the General Fund Parks Maintenance Fund, it's a budget of about $294,000 for wages. As of year to date in November, it was $124,000. And then for the original, so the field operating budget is also about a total of $38,000, with about $16,000 being spent from July to November. And then I'd just like to point out that the Newburgh Park water alone was $14,000 year to date, July to November. Sorry, more technical assistance needed. Okay, and then the Newburgh Park utility, the General Electric, was also a little bit over $14,000. So total expenses from July to November for field maintenance were roughly $170,000. And so what's being proposed today is a local nonprofit youth-based league rental fee. It's a youth fee per player of $20. And just to give a little bit of perspective, the cities of Eureka and Arcata and the McKinleyville CSD, they charge hourly rates. And so as part of a compromise, this became more of a per user fee instead of an hourly fee. Your council may at some point want to shift to an hourly fee because it's a little bit easier for Parks and Recreation staff to track, particularly through their new software. But at this point in time, we're talking about a $20 youth fee per player. And here's just a little bit of, here's an overview of the field expenses and what the proposed fee would bring in. And so it's a relatively small dollar amount compared to what the city is expending in order to maintain the fields at Newburgh and Roner. And then additionally, here's some expense breakdown. And again, the proposed fee is only really anticipated to bring in about $30,000, and that doesn't really cover the majority of the field maintenance costs that exist between personnel and the operational costs, water, gas, and electric, and all the repairs that need to happen. And so I wanted to talk a little bit about some of the major users of the fields. We've got Eel River Valley Little League, and they currently do not pay a field use, but they do provide a lot of in-lieu services. And the current policy before your council today does allow for the continuation of in-lieu services instead of a fee. If they were in the new fee structure, if they were to be charged hourly, it could be up to $43,000, or they continue to pay through in lieu services, which is what we understand they would like to continue to do. Eel River Valley Youth Soccer League has not paid fees. There is not an exchange of services. If they were to pay hourly, we estimate that would be at $19,000, and then the $20 per user fee, we estimate at $18,000. But again, this is based on 900 players countywide, and there was some negotiation that occurred where this fee would only apply to the Eel River Valley area and its sphere of influence. American Legion doesn't currently pay fees. We do believe there's some minor in lieu services, and then they could pay up to $4,000 in an estimated hourly fee, or there's apparently not very many Fortuna residents participating in American Legion. And then we have the American Softball Association. They currently do not pay field use fees or provide in lieu services, but once the new fee schedule is adopted, if your council chooses to go that direction, the hourly fee could be a little over $26,000 or $12,000 based on the $20 per user. And then Fortuna Union High School, there is a pretty significant exchange of services and facilities that occur between the city of Fortuna and Fortuna High School. We use baseball, they use our baseball fields, we use their basketball courts, and so we do have an MOU that will be updated in the future. This is the only league or only entity that an MOU makes sense because there's such a significant exchange of services. And then this doesn't include any lighting, just as a note. And so with that, I'd be happy to answer any questions that your council may have.
Any questions, comments?
I'm probably going to make myself look ignorant, but what are in lieu services that the Eel Valley Little League provides?
Oh, absolutely. In lieu services are, instead of paying a fee, you provide a service. So Eel River Valley Little League, they pay the electricity. They provide Red Rock. They provide bases. They fix fences. They replace scoreboards. They have done significant in lieu services that, quite frankly, the city cannot afford.
I'm just going to make it not so much a question, but a comment on this. I know that as a youth parent, this is one of those things that's hard to kind of swallow and understand. But as a youth parent that wants to see things continue, like Ms. Long said earlier, we have a property that's adjacent to the softball field that we can't develop because we don't have the funds to do so. To grow, if anybody's ever been to Newburgh Park on a Saturday in the fall, knows that we cannot continue to just dump money into something that will eventually need more money to fix things. Parking lots need to be bigger, fields need to be more. Congestion on Newburgh alone probably is a headache for Chief and all his group. They might get their parking spot now, they got a fence on it, but even that, they're out there every day watching, pulling red tickets and getting people tickets on that stuff. It's the only way our sports program will continue to grow and not just be stagnant. We have some really nice fields. It takes a lot of time and effort to get to those fields to be in the condition that they are. And really, we're just using our parks for free, which I get as an understanding. That's what we want to do as a community. But when you're doing it as an organized league with over 900 or 800 kids, you rake in $80,000 in registration fees alone, that this is something that helps Fortuna grow our parks department and only make it better. I got long-term goals for the city that we can have nice, beautiful, even all-weather fields, because I don't know if you guys noticed, it's been raining for the last week and a half, and you can't get on a field at all right now. So the only way we can move forward with this is to really take that growth in our parks department and not just bleed the money out and actually bring some money back in.
So as an initial measure, you're recommending the $20 per person and not the hourly rate? Is that what
That
I
is correct.
understood? Okay, so it's kind of a,
We're stepping.
we're stepping in the right direction,
We're
okay.
putting our toe in the water.
Got it,
Yes.
got it.
Also, is there any public comment on this item?
Frank Mathis, your public, or Parks and Recreation Chairman. We encourage you folks to adopt and implement these fees. Heather and her staff put quite a bit of work into this, and we've met with the user groups on a few occasions. They definitely had some concerns, but as Councilman Conley says, it's costly to operate these parks at this point. I really appreciate the work that Heather and her staff put into this. I know they put a lot of time and effort and a lot of juggling of figures and looking at them. It's something that really needs to be done. It was a unanimous vote of the commission to recommend that you do adopt and implement. With that, I thank you.
Thank you.
So with the per player fee, would they have a time limit? Just something to stop them if you're not doing it by time, by fee, then you're gonna run into people maybe overusing, I wonder.
Through the chair, may I answer that question?
Yes.
This would be a $20 fee for this season. So it would be, there would, if you had a youth that played baseball, that would be a $20 fee. If they then played soccer, that would be another $20 fee.
That was a question I was going to ask too. Is it $20 per sport per season?
Yeah, right.
Okay, thanks. Any other public comment?
Hello, thank you. So I have several students who go to Redwood Prep, have played youth sports, and also reading all of the issues about this that have circulated online today. There is a real concern that this fee isn't going to go to the organizations. It's only going to be passed down to the parents. And so with fees already being unattainable for some parents and some families to manage, there's a real concern that students aren't going to be able to play sports anymore because we're not going to be able to afford it if more fees keep getting piled on. So my recommendation is to vote no. Thank you.
Thank you. Any other public comment?
Good evening, City. Sorry, not a public guy very much, so bear with me here. But good evening, everyone. My name is Matthew Bowen. I am here representing the Eel River Valley Soccer League and address the proposed field use fees for the youth sports. Same numbers as you have up there. This is a significant cost increase that we'll have no choice but to pass along to the families in our community. To cover the expense, we will have to raise player registration fees by approximately 15%. For many local families, even a small increase can be a barrier to participation. We do not want to see any child forced to sit on the sidelines due to affordability. What concerns us even more is that when we brought this issue before the council months ago, we were assured that such a high fee would not be imposed. Now we are faced with a significant financial burden that we must scramble to account for. Our league, like many other local youth sports organizations, is run by volunteers who dedicate their time to provide opportunities for children to be active, learn teamwork, and build lifelong skills. We are asking the council to reconsider this fee and work with us to find a fair and sustainable solution, one that supports both the city's financial needs and the accessibility of youth sports in our community. Thank you for your time and consideration. We hope to continue working together in a way that keeps our kids on the fields without placing an undue burden on local families.
Thank you. Any more comment from, go.
really didn't plan on coming up to talk. I'm Carol Wood. I'm part of the soccer board. This is my third year. When I joined, I kind of just joined to be part of a group to help with our kids because my son started playing. We also have a travel league. I understand what everybody's saying, both sides. We take a lot of flack from the community for where is all this going? What is it getting spent on the registration because it continues to climb? Like, where can we cap it for these families? Sorry. Some families have 3, 4, 5 kids that play soccer. Every sport, every season, that's a lot of money for families. There's families that can't even afford to go to the high school games because now everybody, you know, I get that we have to charge. I get that it takes money to have a business and do these things. I get that. My question for you, Kyle, was that if we're taking in this extra $20, we're not going to be saving to make those other fields. Like, if it's going to go into the cost of what it's going to take to maintain it, then we're not saving any to make those soccer fields back there that we're talking about, or turf, which would be great. I mean, long term, it would be great. So I guess I've proposed to our president to put something out on Facebook, put it out on, you know, so people can understand exactly what our costs of goods are, because people don't understand. You know, everything's going up. Inflation, as we all know. So I've said, you know, we need to tell them we have to pay Cal North, we have to pay insurance, we have to pay for uniforms that cost more, we have to pay our refs. Our refs cost $30,000 a year, or we don't have refs for our games. So when people, I had questions like that too about the cost of things until I owned my own business. And then I'm like, oh, I get it. Okay. So I want to be really transparent with this new soccer board. We have a whole new board. This is the second year that we will be a full, fresh, new board. And we walked into this in a deficit. So we are trying to get our feet back on the ground, because when we do have to pay for things to get fixed, our soccer goals we replaced were $70,000. So even though we want to try to keep it as low as we can, we do have to sometimes raise the registration, but we do also give sponsorships if we can, to as many kids as we can. So just wanted to put that just out there that if, you know, people are online, this soccer board really is trying to do its best for all of our kids. We do have 800 to 900 kids, and I sure, sorry, I'm sure happier to see them playing sports and hanging out at our parks than doing drugs somewhere or causing trouble to our businesses. So it's not that we don't understand the cost. I get it. But at some point, people are priced out. Thank you.
I'd like to bring up something that the Eel River Little League brought up, what they do with their group. Their fees, they broke it down, it'd be $34 is what they would have to charge if they were doing that, but they have a different structure. But what they've also said what they do is if there's a family that can't afford to have their children play in the sports groups, that they write a letter to the organization, which would be the Parks and Rec in this case, saying that we can't afford this, is there something? And what Little League says, they have people that sponsor. They said anybody that's ever written a letter, they have found a sponsor for that child to be able to play. And that's a possibility, you know. There's a lot of businesses that do support youth sports. And this fee is rather minimal. I mean, I spent more than $20 for breakfast this morning here in town. And a lot of the argument that we heard at the commission meetings were, well, the families spend money while they're in town at the restaurants and the stores and so forth, and the city collects some sales tax from that as a revenue. As we all know, that's a minimal amount of money, you know, particularly in groceries or things, but restaurants may be a little higher, and bed tax if they're staying in town. But, you know, comparing these fees to the other incorporated cities in the county, it's really, really low. And like I say, I'd just like to suggest that if there are families that feel they can't do that, somehow we can I'm sure as a community, figure out a way to be able to sponsor these children to be able to play. That's all I have. Thank you.
Mayor Johnson, I'd just like to remind everybody that there's only one time for public comment during the public comment process. You only get one opportunity during this particular item.
Okay, and I understand the fee structure, and having have to work within the budgets and everything when it costs, the cost of water, the cost of employee time, the cost of electricity, all things add up, and I would hope that we could help find a way to individually, not as the city can do it, but joint partner with someone and find a sponsorship or something. But I just wanted to come back to you to see if you had any final comments.
Public comment closed.
Not yet, but.
This is a difficult topic, and clearly it brings up a lot of emotions for people, and I can understand that. I'm a mom myself, and my kids have been involved in youth-based sports their entire lives, and it's expensive, no doubt about it. So I understand. And the truth is, this is also, while it's a government entity, it's also a business, and there is an obligation to charge for services. A lot of these leagues haven't been paying. They've been paying in other cities, other jurisdictions, but haven't been paying in Fortuna. And so that's been to the detriment of the Parks and Recreation program in the city of Fortuna. And I'd also just like to point out Measure P, the sales tax measure, didn't pass. So that was one, potential avenue for revenue for Parks and Recreation, and that didn't happen. And so here we are having a very difficult and uncomfortable conversation, but it is important that you have this conversation and consider adopting these fees in order to maintain your Parks and Rec department. I cannot tell you how hard these folks work and how hard they work cleaning up after some of these leagues. It's amazing what they do. They come in and they even open the gates on Thanksgiving and Christmas Day, and they do a lot. They clean the bathrooms, they empty the trash cans, they take the dog poo off the fields. They do an incredible amount of work, and so that deserves, folks should pay for that service, quite frankly. And this is a minimal amount. I understand it's a lot of money to some families, and that's not an easy thing to take, but it is something that the city should consider doing in order to maintain your services and to continue your services.
Is there any other public comment? This time we'll close public comment and look for a motion.
Can I add one more thing?
Comments.
I just want to say that I was one of the original people part of Measure E. That land purchase came through Measure E. And watching the last Measure E report of where funds are coming from, things are going up across the board, and we're pulling more out of the general fund to do that, which is what we're doing with our Parks Department to pay for that. This is more money that will go to Parks Department that won't come out of the general fund, and will hopefully add more stuff that Ms. Long can come up here and say, we need more stuff for Newburgh Park or Roner Park to help better this situation. And it's not just maintaining the fields, it's not just mowing the field, it's kind of getting that park budget back to the point where we actually can help improve stuff. Again, whether that's a parking lot or LED lights were in the Newburgh parking lot came from Measure E. Measure E's funds are not there to adequately do that, and we have to start replacing money somewhere where we're bleeding it out. And right now, that's Parks is, we give a lot to not get a lot back. So this is a little bit to get back so we can start replacing that funds in the pots that we can to help kind of grow the Parks Department.
I actually really like the idea of having sponsor for parents that can't afford something, even if we set up a little fundraiser, and have a fundraiser once a year for soccer and have that be as grants to help families that, that can't do it, or get sponsors. So I think that's something that's very attainable, to help out the families who really do need that help. But we really don't, we can't keep going backwards. We're the only place that doesn't charge for anything. I see the staff out there, after soccer days, cleaning the field, reseeding. Soccer does a lot of damage to the fields too, so they have to reseed, they have to do all of that, and we're the only city that doesn't charge for anything on that. I also have grandchildren that play, so I am down there every Saturday also. I know how important sports are for kids, and unfortunately, something has to be done. Something has to be, I don't like the fact that we have to charge, but we haven't been charging anything, totally free for years, and we do have to start being able to pay. Our expenses are going up too, so unfortunately, it's something that we do have to do. But I can see, and I will talk to the Parks Department more and to the city manager more about seeing how we can get some grants that we can maybe apply for to help families that really do need it. And then one last thing I wanted to say on the, before a motion is made, on page, what page is that? Under the parks fee scheduling, under new proposed fee additions, I would like to see the last sentence taken out of there, that fees will be applied to league players residing in the Eel River Valley and the rest of that, because basically what that says is people from out of the area don't have to pay, only local people do. So I would like to just completely get rid of that sentence there.
What was the intent of the sentence?
The intent of the sentence was a compromise of sorts. It does place some level of burden on the Eel River Valley to continue to support players in Eureka, Arcata, and McKinleyville. So the sentence was a compromise in order to get some buy-in on the $20 user fee.
And I don't think Eel River Valley should have to support the surrounding areas. So that's why I want that taken out. Where's, I don't have, what's the motion?
Well, I was going to see what the,
Well, I'm gonna make a motion to adopt the field use agreement and nonprofit use-based league rental fee schedule, and taking that line out, adding, or that last line that I said to the motion.
I second it.
I'm still looking for that line.
it's in one of the attachments.
It's on page 4 of your staff report,
Sorry.
under new proposed
New
fee
proposed
addition, local
Last line there.
nonprofit youth-based league rental.
Okay.
And so Councilmember Trent is just saying, so the fee would be defined, it would be applied to organizations with legal nonprofit status whose primary function is serving youth 17 years and under, period.
Okay.
I heard a motion.
And
Okay.
a second.
We have a motion and a second. I'm seeing this as a voice vote. So all in favor?
Aye.
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 Carol, get a hold of me, and I'll work, see if we can work and about getting grants for,
No, we can't alter our yeah. We appreciate it. I know where to find you, so.
Continue.
So we will move on now to appoint retired CalPERS annuitant as extra help as a reserve police officer with Fortuna Police Department.
Yes, thank you, and good evening, Mayor Johnson, Honorable City Council. I have a short staff report and a small ask this evening, so I'll direct your attention to the staff report. And without further ado, make a staff recommendation to authorize the hiring of a retired annuitant, Alan Mendes, as a reserve police officer for the Fortuna Police Department. A little bit about Alan. He's pretty well known throughout the Eel River Valley community. He is a Fortuna resident and a 35-year police law enforcement professional. He's had an array of experience working here in Fortuna, Ferndale Police Department, with the Sheriff's Office. I think he worked in the courts for a while and also with the Drug Task Force. So we're looking to hire him as a reserve officer, even though he has actually completed the full academy. So we'd bring him in as a level 1 reserve officer within the organizational chart, but he's fully certified to serve as a solo officer. Because he is retired from the Sheriff's Office, he does fit the state and federal definition of retired annuitant. As the council knows, he is restricted by state and federal restrictions that limit him to about 960 hours per fiscal year, which equates to about 18 hours per week. We don't foresee using Officer Mendez anywhere close to 18 hours. We're looking at this as more of a kind of relief position for dealing with some of the heavy overtime that we're dealing with at this point, and also for special events. So the appointment will really allow us to do a couple of things. First, the limit appointment will allow us to utilize his expertise for special events and as-needed deployments without committing to a full-time salary or benefits. And this appointment will also allow us to address staffing shortages while maintaining public safety and fiscal responsibility. So as the council knows, the PD continues to face staffing challenges this year. We also have to deal with balancing public safety demands and working within our budget constraints, and we think this is a good solution for at least part of that. Staffing shortages have increased. Service demands often result in overtime reliance to maintain our minimum levels of staffing. By hiring Officer Mendez, we can reduce overtime costs, prevent burnout among our full-time officers, and enhance our operational flexibility. So this is good for the city when we're talking about fiscal impact and cost savings. Reserve officers provide an efficient and cost-effective solution for addressing temporary staffing needs. Mendez will be compensated at an hourly rate of approximately $22.76, which is, if you're familiar with time and a half for some of our senior officers, significantly lower. We feel like, again, this will help mitigate some of our overtime expenditures. It's not the solve to the problem, but it will help while ensuring that we maintain the highest level of service for the community. So in conclusion, the addition of Alan Mendez as a reserve police officer will enhance our department's ability to provide exceptional service while exercising some fiscal responsibility and kind of addressing some of the overtime issues that we're having. Staff is respectfully requesting that the council adopt resolution 2025-01 to authorize this appointment following a post-approved background investigation. And I'm happy to answer any questions that you might have.
Thank you. Questions?
I do. I assume this is within your budget, And you're not coming for a supplemental, you're basically just doing the resolution for the hire?
Yes, that's correct.
Okay, thank you.
Is he still going to be employed at Ferndale, and would that impact his ability?
Yeah, it's a good question. He is employed with Ferndale Police Department, and so there has been discussion between Ferndale's chief and myself on what that looks like. The priority would be with Ferndale PD. Fortuna is not and will never be in the business of trying to take advantage of any type of situation like that. But case in point, Alan does help Fortuna with, and several of their officers, I should say, help us with many of our special events here in town. And so he's not working full-time out there, and on those, occasions where he is available, we would like to maximize use of his experience.
And if I'm not mistaken, Ferndale does not do CalPERS, so that's why he doesn't have I'm assuming 960 hour over there, and it doesn't add to and affect ours over here.
You're absolutely correct.
I just wanted to tell Jerry, too, this will actually save us money instead of costing us money, because we'll be paying just regular pay, where if somebody's sick or we're shorthanded, we're paying overtime. And we have a large overtime bill in the police department. So I think this is a good opportunity to save.
Thank you.
Any public comment on this item? Seeing none, we'll close public comment. Any final questions, comments?
No, I make a motion to adopt Resolution 2025-01 and read by title only.
Second.
Resolution 2025-01, a resolution of the City Council of the City of Fortuna appointing a retired annuitant Alan Mendes as a reserve officer for the Fortuna Police Department. Councilmember Conley?
Aye.
Councilmember King?
Aye.
Mayor Pro Tem Trent?
Yes.
Mayor Johnson?
Yes. All right. Another retired annuitant appointment to extra help part-time bus driver for the Fortuna Transit System.
It's me again. I'm back. So before your city council tonight is to request the retired annuitant Kathleen Radcliffe be appointed as a retired annuitant for extra help as a part-time bus driver. Kathleen has extensive experience, and she retired from the Humboldt Transit Authority, and she is from a CalPERS retirement system, so the 960-hour limit does apply to her. There's one full-time bus driver position and 2 part-time bus driver positions, so if your council approves this retired annuitant appointment, that means we will be fully staffed with bus drivers in the Transit Department of Parks and Recreation, and I know that they look forward to that very much. That concludes the report. I'd be happy to answer any questions.
Any questions for?
No questions, but just a comment. How do you just happen to get like the most qualified candidate that says,
We
I
are
want to do a little
just
part-time
that,
work?
we are just that good, right? No, we got lucky. Sometimes our recruitments are fantastic and we get absolutely amazing candidates, and this was one of those times.
Yeah, I was just
She
looking at the resume. I'm like, well, I mean, yeah.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, experience. Any other comments? Any public comment on this item? Seeing none, we'll close public comment.
Motion to adopt Resolution 2025-02 and read by title only.
Second.
Have a motion and a second.
Resolution 2025-02, a resolution of the City Council of the City of Fortuna appointing retired annuitant Kathleen Radcliffe as an extra help part-time bus driver 1. Councilmember Conley?
Aye.
Councilmember King?
Aye.
Mayor Pro Tem Trent?
Yes.
Mayor Johnson?
Yes. All right. We're just tearing this up. So we come now to authorize the city manager to execute professional services agreement with Jen Rice Consultants and SBR.
Yes, before your city council today is a professional services agreement, and this comes before your city council because in your policies and procedures manual, it does state that every 2 years following a city council election that you will meet with department managers and you will do goal setting and priorities. This hasn't actually happened for a significant number of years, and that came to the attention of your city council on December 15th during a future agenda item discussion when a council member requested that we look into this further and actually do some goal setting and priorities, set goals and priorities. And that some additional conversation ensued, because typically what you do is you do vision, you do strategic planning. There's a lot more that goes into it instead of just getting into a room. You go out and you talk to the community, you find out what the community wants, and you listen to the community, and hopefully that starts to set the vision and the priorities for the direction that the city heads. And so before your council is an agreement to begin public engagement, which offers an innovative and a community-based approach to understanding community priorities by asking and listening to a wide swath of the community, analyzing the feedback received during those listening sessions, designing strategic timelines and objectives, and then finally agreeing on next steps, policies, practices, and projects, although I say I wrote policies. So there is a typo, it's policies, anyway. So the initial budget request is $18,810. This may be reduced to $15,335 if city staff is available to help. That is a little bit precarious at this point because, quite frankly, staff has a significant amount of work. In addition, I've reached out to the McLean Foundation to see if they have any grant funding that can assist with this effort, because they also have an interest in understanding what the community priorities are. And so they may provide some grant assistance. So the supplemental budget request before your city council may be reduced, but at this time, the request is for $18,810. And that concludes the report.
Okay, any questions, comments?
I do. I find this, while it might be a good opportunity, I think with our current budget, and sitting in a meeting where we're talking about charging more for fuel usage, I think that we could look into doing this maybe in a little more old-fashioned way, and or waiting to see if some sort of grant would come in before we just go out there for an exploratory thing. At this point, where even if we find visions and goals, we probably don't have the budget to add to those visions and goals. So yet we spend money on ideas to find that, and then cannot find our way to get past where they sit, and then they will get there and sit, and then nothing will happen. I think the purpose of council is the 4 or 5 of us that are up here is to be out there and talking to the community, talking to those that should have their goals for the city and gathering that information. And I think that is something that we should be doing as a more old-fashioned kind of way of doing it. And I think it can save us some money at this current time where our budget really doesn't have a ton extra in it to do extra requests.
Any other comments?
Any comments?
Go ahead.
Okay. So as I understand this, that's phase 1, the 18, and then there's the potential for a phase 2, another 15, so about 34,000 in general, less if there's a savings for city staff to participate. Is that
That is
generally
correct.
what I'm seeing?
Yes.
Okay. I have to basically reflect Kyle's comment. I wasn't part of that, I guess, decision-making process for those policies and procedures before I got on council. So what I would tell you is, I think it's the city's job, the folks sitting up here and staff, to have those visions and not a consultant coming in. You'll never get me to agree to vote for a consultant for something like that. So that's all I really need to say.
Okay, I had the same exact conversation with city manager about an hour ago in her office. And I do think that we could do goal setting, and I said the same thing there, that we can go out and we can talk in the community and bring stuff back without it taking a lot of staff time and $35,000. We have to make cuts too. on our stuff, and I don't see this as being a necessity. Yeah, it's nice, I call it a little foo-foo, but I don't think it's something that's absolutely necessary either, but I would like to pursue, something within the council, going out and talking in the community, whether it's at a meetings or each of us have, certain people that we want to go out and talk to about this, but we don't have the money to implement any of this afterwards. So we go through this whole process, spend this money, and then we can't do anything with it. So I would like to maybe, if you want to do this, look for grants or something for it, but I'm going to have to agree with the other two.
Well, in light of the conversations that we've been having this evening, I have to say I'm inclined to agree with the rest of the council. But after seeing the pain that's coming into the community, I understand the whole point. And in light of some of the other things that have happened in the last few weeks, it's good to be transparent and to go out and seek what the public would like to see the council and the direction that the city takes. But I just don't know if this is the right time to do that. If we could get a grant for it, that'd be awesome, but it's just not the right time right now. I can see the point, and I know that it hasn't been done the last few years, but I just don't think this is the right way and time right now. Is there any public comment on this?
Good evening, Mayor and Council. I strongly disagree with all four of you. And when I was elected, I was exactly thinking as you did my first year until we did a strategic planning session and vision and missions through the county. And I understand the money. We also have that problem with the county. However, it is not about just what your community wants. It's about aligning your staff with yourself and finding out how you can utilize your staff to find those missions and goals, which could include finding grants for soccer, finding grants for your parks. It doesn't necessarily have to be a lot of money that you spend on that, but it's giving your direction to your staff members and figuring out how to work that way, saying to your staff, this is priority 1, 2, and 3, and 4, and how do we accomplish that? It's really hard to do without sitting down and doing this process. We tried at the county, we missed a year, and it is so helpful to keep on track when you have a strategic plan. Also, the consultant that is listed on this contract is a local gal from Eureka, and I've worked with her a lot. She does a fantastic job, and that is a very minimal amount of money for any kind of consulting fee. I would hope that you would reconsider, and if not, then sometime near in the future, because this really could help set Fortuna up with your staff, with your community, and with yourself to bring it full circle around. Thank you for the opportunity to speak.
Thank you. And I too can see something happening in the future, but I want to see where we end up in July or whatever, just any other comment here? Any public comment? Okay. I think it's.
Well, there's no motion, so we can, I'm not going to argue with all of you.
I would still like to table it, and if we do see funds that can come in
Sure.
and help support, that we revisit this. I don't think it's dead in the water. I just think it's dead in the water today.
And approve the transfer of 11 hours per week from recreation part-time to transit part-time.
All right, we have our final Parks and Recreation item today, which is the transfer of 11 hours from recreation part-time to transit part-time. And this is necessary because historically, the Parks and Recreation Transportation Administrative Supervisor provided transit support and supervision. And in the last year, that position has dissolved and been replaced with an administrative assistant too. Leaving the majority of the transit dispatch duties to one part-time person. And the administrative assistant 2 person is definitely consumed on a full-time basis with other parks and recreation duties. And so it's necessary to increase the transit dispatch hours in order to maintain the level of dispatch services that are needed in transit, because transit dispatch occurs Monday through Friday, 8 to 4 p.m. And so there is no funding request before your council to do this. This is just a formality to make you aware that there'll be 2 20-hour part-time dispatch positions dispatching Monday through Friday, 8 to 4 p.m. And if you have any questions, I'd be happy to answer them.
Any questions? That's pretty straightforward and hour for hour. And any public comment on this item? Seeing none. Motion?
Okay. I'll make a motion to approve the transfer of 11 hours per week from the recreation part-time to transit part-time allocation by voice vote.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
None opposed? And we have another task. And that brings us to the city manager's report.
Here I go again. All right, the city manager's report. There will be a city council meeting on Tuesday, February 18th. That is following a Monday holiday at 6 p.m. There'll also be a Monday, March 3rd, 6 p.m. city council meeting. I would also just like to point out that there will now be a March 10th special meeting to select for the city council to review applications and make a selection on March 10th as well. There is Planning Commission meetings scheduled for February 11th and February 25th at 6 p.m. There is a Measure E meeting on Wednesday, March 18th at 5:30. And then the RCRPD will not be meeting on February 5th at 2:30 p.m. That meeting has been canceled. And they will be meeting on Wednesday, March 5th at 2:30 p.m. And then FBID will hopefully meet on April 22nd, if not sooner, in a special meeting, because they also have work to do. They have an annual report to adopt and hopefully make some bylaw changes as well. And that concludes the city manager's report.
Any questions for our city manager?
No.
Any agenda requests?
I believe at some point we need to bring up a cannabis ordinance again and see if that's a possibility to bring income into Fortuna.
That particular item is actually on an item of things for the community development director to do, to bring basically a list of possible ordinances and have your council prioritize which ordinances she should be working on. And so I will reinforce that that needs to happen swiftly.
Thank you.
Okay. Any other future agenda items?
Nope.
Okay, come to council reports. Councilmember Conway.
Thank you. I don't really have much report on my committees, but I do want to take the time to thank and appreciate everybody that not only has found me in the public, came to the meeting, voiced their opinions. I know that this parks fee schedule is a hot topic. Trust me, I have a baseball coach, a basketball coach, a football coach, and I'm out there and I'm in kids' sports, and I understand my kid plays everything but, soccer, only because he plays football now and it's the same time, but he played before. And sports are expensive and everybody's got a fee and everything's got a fee. But I have heard from community members and I have heard that this is the direction to better Fortuna. And so I just appreciate everybody's comments. It is a hot topic, but it takes a lot of courage to get up here and voice your opinion. And I want to throw that out there. If you're listening on TV Land, I've already got emails and stuff saying that they appreciate it stuff. So I do appreciate the comments. I have heard people's voices out in the public. It's not something that we take lightly, and it's not something that I just take for granted. So I just want to throw that out there.
Councilmember King.
Well, good evening. I would report that the REDAC meeting of January 27th was canceled, so the next one will be on February 24th at 6:30, and I plan on attending. I had the pleasure of attending the League of Cities Academy January 21st through the 24th in Sacramento. Very educational. And I think now I'm on RCEA, and I'll do an orientation with them this next Wednesday at 5:30. Other than that, I have nothing else to report other than it was a tough night. I have grandchildren in sports here, so I'm well aware of what my son has to do, and it's tough. But I have to agree with the city manager that we have to run this city almost as a business, and there's bills to pay, and there's inflation and everything else, and it's tough. So I hope we can continue to, work hard on grants, not just for that, but for other things. And I will make sure that I put my best effort in regards to that going forward, best I can for those that may need help.
Mayor Pro Tem Trent.
Okay, being a council member, as you can all see, is not easy, not always an easy or fun job. Sometimes it is really fun, but when we have to make these hard decisions, even though it's something that we may not really want to do, we have to put our personal feelings aside and do what we need to do for the city, and that's not always easy. But, hopefully we can work together on solutions for this, and I plan on following through with that. But with that said, I did attend the Providence meeting that was in Eureka. I was told that it was to see how to get more specialist doctors up here and work with that. It wasn't quite what I expected it to be. It was a forum there, but I didn't hear anything on how we're going to get more doctors up here. So hopefully I will still follow with all of that, because our hospitals are very important. We are in a rural area, and we don't have the best medical care here. Most of us that have to go to a specialist have to leave the area. So hopefully we can work on that a little bit too. And that's all I have to report right now.
Well, I've been spending a lot of time also with League of California Cities, but I'll start off with the Humboldt County Association of Governments. As some may remember, some may never have known, but we lost our executive director to RCEA, and we are searching for another executive director, and we've had a special meeting for that, as well as an agendized meeting where we went into closed session to discuss items there. We actually have interviews this coming Friday with an initial pool, which we will narrow down for another second round of interviews and choose a candidate from that, hopefully. We'll also have attended the League of California Cities Policy Committee meeting for Transportation, Communication, and Public Works 2 weeks ago now. And then following that, I was down and attended the same kind of meeting that Councilmember King went to, looking at it from a mayor's perspective and learning more about the Brown Act, ethics training, finance, getting a cohesive staff, working with a city manager. So things to help develop a responsive and effective government for the city. And that's being said, that's where I've been the last few weeks, and I see we can adjourn now. And it has been a long night.
Motion to adjourn.
2.5 hours.
Yeah, second.
Motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
We are adjourned.